Happy college football weekend. It's time to get you covered. Week 4, 6 on the slate. Let's rock and roll. And we start by asking, what is wrong with Florida State? Do the Noles remain conquered by a spiteful playoff past?
Utah enters the Big 12 in a big way with a massive duel with the Pokes in Stillwater. Can the Utes assert themselves as a playoff contender against Oklahoma State?
A return to Norman for Josh Heupel. Will Tennessee emerge as a top-tier competitor with emotions running high in the Sooner State?
For the second time in 3 weeks, the Big House plays host to a colossal top 25 matchup. Can Michigan right the ship with a new-look offense, or will USC fight on with another ranked win?
We're talking all that and more on this spirited Friday morning from the beautiful Moss Art Center studios in Blacksburg. I'm Giovanni alongside Raza Umerani, and well, buddy, the show has seen better results than we produced last week.
Yeah, that was a certified dud of a performance, and listen, we apologize greatly for that. A 1-in-5 week is as bad as it gets, but you know what they say, once you've hit rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up.
And with that, it's time for your weekly bout with the books.
You bet we're looking to show Vegas who's boss.
Give me my theme music. We kick off our Week 4 picks with an ACC clash down in the Derby City. Brent Key and the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets look to remain unblemished against top 25 competition with number 19 Louisville on tap in the house that Lamar Jackson built.
Through 3 weeks, the Cardinals look like the real deal with the top scoring offense in the ACC, flying high and scoring points in bunches. The problem? None of that has come against anybody with a pulse. Sure, they're 2-0 with 2 blowout wins, but they've played Austin Peay and Jacksonville State. Listen, Georgia Tech might have a blemish on their record, but a 3-point loss on the road to a seemingly good Syracuse team is not the end of the world. Led by Haynes King and Jamal Haynes on offense, the Jackets are an experienced team that plays a style of football that'll give anyone headaches. Just ask Florida State. Plus, Georgia Tech is 5-0 against ranked ACC teams under Brent Key, and 4 of those wins have come away from Atlanta. Louisville is excellent at home, but surely this one will at least be close, right?
We just think that the number is too big. In fact, it wouldn't shock us if Georgia Tech went down there and won this thing outright. So give us the Yellow Jackets to cover on the road. Book it, baby! Georgia Tech plus 10.5.
Let's stay in the conference where greatness is accomplished, although not much of that is happening in Tallahassee. But maybe this is the week that Florida State figures it out. It won't be easy, as the Noles welcome the surprising 3-0 California Golden Bears to Doak for a shockingly pivotal conference clash.
What the heck is going on in Tallahassee? Nobody, and I mean nobody, saw an 0-3 start coming for Florida State. The Noles were the favorite to win the ACC and punch their ticket to the college football playoffs. And in just 3 weeks, the lofty expectations have evaporated into thin air. Between poor quarterback play and a non-existent rushing attack, Florida State has yet to show a pulse offensively. In fact, the Seminoles rank 128th in the country in total offense and own the worst scoring average in the ACC. So you might say, well, what about the defense? It doesn't get any better. Florida State possesses a third down defense that ranks 124th in all of college football. Oh, and the Doak? Well, it's near half capacity due to renovations. Cal, on the other hand, they're off to a hot 3-0 start with a road win over Auburn under their belt. Saturday marks their first ACC game in Cal history, and what a world we live in.
Listen, if Cal's play on the field is anywhere near as good as their fan base's antics on social media, maybe they win this one outright. But in any case, we like them to cover the slight spread on the road. Book it, baby, Cal plus 2.5.
Next stop on our tour, we head out west to the mountains of Provo, Utah. A Big 12 battle to bet on as number 13 Kansas State is on the road against BYU.
Is Kansas State the best team in the Big 12? People are asking, and for good reason. They just smacked a good Arizona team last week. The Wildcats already had one of the most well-rounded rosters in the league, but new signal caller Avery Johnson has taken them to another level. The sophomore they call Sunshine has been lethal with his arm and his legs, racking up almost 700 total yards and giving opposing defenses nightmares. All the while, K-State's defense has been extremely sound, giving up less than 14 points per game. BYU has a good defense of their own, and they've got a solid win over SMU under their belt. Plus, they've got a dual-threat quarterback of their own as well in Jake Retzlaff. But the Cougars are going up against a perennial conference power here. The moment might just be bigger than the mountains that overlook their stadium.
Kansas State to the playoff? Maybe a future bonus bet in the making. And with that, we give it a book it, baby. K-State minus 6.5.
It's time to turn up the heat as we head back to the Big House in Ann Arbor as USC makes its Big Ten debut, seeking a potentially program-altering victory over the struggling Michigan Wolverines.
A couple of weeks ago when we took Texas to win big in Ann Arbor, I broke down the reasons why Michigan was a far cry from their banner-hanging predecessors. In an attempt to avoid exhausting that conversation, I'd like to take this opportunity to show some love to our friends from Southern Cal. Most of the time, change doesn't happen overnight, but for the Trojans, it did. It's all thanks to the brand new defensive coordinator, D'Anton Lynn, and USC has rebranded a tough physical defense for the first time under Lincoln Riley. They boast a top 20 scoring defense and are battle-tested with a ranked win over LSU in Week 1. On the other side, the Trojans possess the third highest offensive success rate in all of college football and flex the top passing offense in the Big Ten. But this one isn't about the numbers. It's about the eye test. And USC has the dogs that can match up physically with Michigan in the trenches. I like USC on Saturday.
I'm not sure if Connor Stallions was taking flights out to LAX last year to do some sightseeing. Regardless, we like the Trojans to take this one comfortably. Fight on with a book it, baby. USC -5.5.
College football is a strange and beautiful sport. A soap opera offering hysterical theatrics and storylines galore. Tennessee head coach Josh Heupel led Oklahoma to a national title as the Heisman runner-up in 2000. He later joined the Sooners staff as co-offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach before being fired by his own coach, Bob Stoops, in 2014. That firing burned the bridge between Heupel and his alma mater and sparked the fire that has ignited a Tennessee resurgence. The two schools meet on Saturday for just the 5th all-time meeting, marking Oklahoma's introduction to the Southeastern Conference.
To put it plainly, Tennessee has the best offense in college football right now. How does an FBS leading 64 points and 640 yards per game sound? And I know what you're thinking. Nico Iamaleava is the headline grabber. Well, not quite. The Vols run the ball for 336 yards per game, good for 3rd in the nation. The other side of the ball ain't bad either, giving up a minuscule 4.3 points per contest. With the best EPA margin in the country, Tennessee might actually be underrated at this point. Then there's OU, who has a great roster of their own, but it's been in back-to-back dogfights with Houston and Tulane. The Sooners are also led by a sophomore signal caller in Jackson Arnold, but they just don't have the firepower to keep up with the Volunteers with a middle-of-the-pack defense and the 3rd least productive offense in the SEC.
Who doesn't love a good redemption story? Give us the Vols in Norman on Saturday and book it, baby. Tennessee -6.5.
And now for our super selection of the week, we're headed to the land of QR codes on helmets, a head coach with a mullet, and a mascot with a head that's way too big. It's number 14 Oklahoma State hosting number 12 Utah in Stillwater as the Utes make their long-awaited Big 12 debut.
Mark my words, the winner of this game plays for the Big 12 championship in December. In fact, we could be seeing part 1 of a saga. Nevertheless, the stakes could not be higher for this Week 4 showdown in Stillwater. I like Oklahoma State, and here's why. The Pokes are 7-0 in their last 7 games at home against ranked opponents. In that stretch, the Cowboys averaged nearly 32 points a game while amassing an average of 467 yards of total offense. On the other side, it still hasn't been determined whether or not quarterback Cam Rising is a go for Utah. The veteran signal caller sustained a hand injury in Week 2 and hasn't played since. The other question is, if he plays, is he 100%? We understand that Ollie Gordon has gotten off to a slower start than expected, but in the same vein, State hasn't needed to rely on him to be successful. This game has seen some crazy movement when it comes to the betting lines, favoring both teams by a field goal throughout the week. But we believe it swung back home for a reason.
In this battle of old head quarterbacks, give us the mustache of Alan Bowman over the flow of Cam Rising. Book it, baby. Oklahoma State -2.5.
So with that, let's recap. We like Georgia Tech and Cal to hold their own in a wide-open ACC.
We're taking K-State and USC to keep the winning ways going under their star sophomore quarterbacks.
Give us Tennessee to show the Sooners who's boss in the SEC.
Last but not least, we're rocking with the Pokes to pull out a tight win between Big 12 heavyweights in Stillwater.
Hey, we appreciate you stopping by, and we'll see you right back here next week for another Saturday Slate.
Until then, when they call, you be sure to tell them, we got it covered.